Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ethos Online. Again, this is a space where we can be, belong, and become the very best version of ourselves. And so every week we put these videos out. Every week we seek to delve deeper and deeper into these scriptures because, again, we think there is so much beauty, so much application, especially right now in a world that's kind of gone chaotic. I never thought I'd see it before, but there's so much happening right now, and we need more than ever the wisdom voices of the past to stand and to share some of this beauty, share how to navigate the chaos. And so that's why, again, so many of us, whether you believe these stories are literal or metaphor, whatever you see, there is so much goodness here. And so in these studies at Ethos Online, we delve deep, deep, deep. We go verse by verse into these beautiful, beautiful books and into all of these verses, and we think there's a lot of beauty there. And so wherever you're joining us, whether in the living room, you're joining us in a larger community sitting around, making this your church service, whatever you're doing with it, we just want to welcome you and tell you this is safe space to ask questions, to go deeper, to disagree. We love it all. In fact, if you find yourself disagreeing with this, please write me an email, Tony Werfel, WUERFEL @gmail.com, and send in some questions, some perspectives. We love it all. And so again, if you want to donate, below there, you'll see the description. You can actually give tax-deductible donations, help us continue doing all of the things we do. The blogs, the podcasts, the Ethos Online discussions twice a month, all of that. It takes time, it takes energy, but we believe it's worth it. And so partner with us. We'd love for you to partner with us. Help us continue putting out this content. Very valuable content right here, right now. And as well, please consider just hitting the like button, the subscribe button, the little bell on your YouTube channel. Do those things. Let's keep this going. Share this material everywhere you go. So delving in, we've been doing this a lot lately, and I think it's kind of fun. Question and answer. This one was asked of me, and I thought, well, that's a pretty easy one right now. And so the question was this: what is your favorite book of the Bible? And so the funny thing about that question for me is every time I shift in my life, whenever there's a moment where, like, I just turned 40 and I have kids now, my favorite book is going to be a little different because the various books have different tellings and different perspectives. And so when I was younger, I used to like the Gospels a lot more. When I turned into my 30s, I was all about Revelation. Right? Because I was shifting and turning and deconstructing. At 40, I have to tell you, my favorite book right now in the Bible, the one that I just am drawn to over and over again, is Genesis. And like, how applicable, because that's the book we're studying. But Genesis for me, when I read these stories now, they're not just stories. They actually really hum. I find myself in the story over and over and over again. I find myself connecting and understanding this nation of Israel because, again, it is a perfect picture of Israel, right? It's Israel on this journey. They fall into captivity, into brokenness, and then they cry out to God. They cry out saying, this is unfair, it's unjust. After they cry out, after the anger is unleashed and the sadness and the frustration, after it's unleashed, then they begin to wander for a bit. They learn and unlearn certain things. And after unlearning and relearning and learning new things, finally they go into this place called the Promised Land. And I find that place, my journey is often found in those four places. And so I see over and over again in this book of Genesis, it's really my story. And it's your story. And so the book of Genesis, let's just dive in. Genesis. We understand, again, we do this, and again, for some of you, you're like, he's going to say the same thing again. I think repetition is key. And so understanding why Genesis is written. It is not written as a historical document. That was never the reason behind this book, this compilation. Again, they go into captivity. Their nation is basically totally almost wiped out. Their temple's destroyed. The Babylonians take them captive, and they march them hundreds of miles on feet. And again, this happens around 587 BC. We call it Babylonian captivity. And so they are marched, hundreds of miles until they get to Babylon. And again, imagine yourself there. You get there in Babylon, this huge city, and you notice all these other people, all these other tribes, no one's speaking the same language. It seems like chaos, right? Babylon, Babel, right? You can see the connections there. It's chaotic. It's crazy. And your people, you're trying to figure out who are all these people? And you watch your kids, right? They're getting tattoos. They're losing their ethic. They're forgetting the recipes you taught them. They're forgetting their stories. And so what the Hebrews do here is brilliant, because so many of those other tribes, they did not do this. And that's why we don't hear of them, right? But what Israel does is brilliant. They take their stories, their values, their ethics, all of it, they write it there. And so it's written in response to the fears of assimilation, right? So they write down all of the poetry, the mythology, the stories, the characters. They write it all down. Again, everything is compiled there. And so in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, you have this beautiful, beautiful picture of Israel called the Torah. Yeah. And again, it's poetry, it's song, it's prophetic musings, right? It's wisdom stories. It's the ancients stepping in and saying, hey, wait. You're about to do that again. Like, if you do this again, this is what's going to happen. Are you sure you want to do this? Right? Prophetic warnings. That's what prophecy was. It was saying, let's stop and let's consider where we're going, because if we do this, this is what could potentially happen. But if we change our minds, if we shift, if we go this direction, we'll find wholeness. And so that is Torah. And so Torah is a complete narrative of Israel miniaturized through these tellings. And so last week, we finished up Genesis 1. We understood this is a beautiful piece of poetry is what it really was. That's how they would have read it, as poetry. And again, they understood this was kind of this creation narrative is almost it's a slap in the face to Babylon and their story of their gods hovering over the waters, creating chaos, and out of the chaos comes life. Israel's God says, no. That's not the way to life. The way to life is to step into the chaos, right? The messy table. You see that mess that you've gathered all week long. It's a mess. It's crazy. And you can't get anything done on it, right? Clear the space. That's what Israel's God does, is clear the space. Like the good busboy, right, at the restaurant. He clears the space. And after space has been cleared, then you can begin ordering life again. You can begin adding the beautiful things that come in. You can do that. And so Genesis 1 was this beautiful poem about what life looks like, how to order life effectively so that Israel can continue moving down that road toward life more abundantly. Now, chapter 2. Many people will notice chapter 2 is very different than chapter 1. There are some striking differences. So again, if this was a history, they did a pretty poor job. Why not just choose one or the other, right? But the two disagree, and we'll get into that more next week. But what I want you to understand about Genesis 2 is very simple. Genesis 2 is a story. And when I say story, remember, this is oral tradition now, right? This is a story that would have been told around a campfire. The elders would have brought all the children and the young people all together, and they would have said, hey, we have a story for you. And they would have shared this story around the campfire. And this is what we get from oral tradition. It is a sharing, a telling, a story, a narrative. And again, it's more metaphor than it is literal, right? So understand that about this as well. And so as it begins, you'll see it's really important when we step into this. Genesis 2 starts with kind of a bridge. It starts by taking this narrative from this poem and this narrative, and it kind of creates a gap in between. It creates space to bridge the two. And so it starts with this bridge by discussing this day, this seventh day called the Sabbath. And so even before stepping into this concept of Sabbath, I want to give you a little bit of Hebrew understanding of why Shabbat is so important to the Hebrews. Shabbat. And really it comes with an understanding of the law, right? The 10 Commandments, this beautiful blessing from their God. Again, they felt that their God had given them these wisdom commands, right? These ways to live well. And so if you look at the Ten Commandments, many of us grew up with the Ten Commandments as being like this absolute curse, right? The things that you do, if you break them, you're screwed, right? You're in a lot of trouble. Ten Commandments, almost like held over you as like a curse. But for any Hebrew person, whenever the rabbi would bring out Torah, especially concerning the law, they would celebrate, they would rejoice. Children would try to touch it because it was so sacred and holy, and they believed it brought so much life. And here's how they viewed it. They didn't see it as a list of do's and don'ts. They saw it actually as something much, much bigger. So here we go. Commands 1 through 4. Commands 1 through 4. When you read these over, you'll understand these first 4 commands are all centered around a connection with the divine. How do you live in connection with the divine in a divine way, right? These 4, again, no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee graven images. All of these concepts are really all about how to live in connection and harmony with the divine. And then you'll see next, when you look at the other 6 through 10, those commands are all about how to live in harmony with each other. So first, it's about how to be in harmony with God. Second, how to live in harmony with each other in community. Again, that's what we call politics. It's how to order life, how to create rules, regulations on how we can live peacefully together. And we make amendments, right? And we make changes as we shift as a culture. But this is how Israel saw these 6 through 10. And that's why we don't kill, we don't commit adultery, we don't steal, we don't bear false witness. We honor each other's stuff, right? And we live together in harmony as neighbors. That's the idea of 6 through 10. But you'll notice there is a 4th command, right smack dab in the middle. And if you understand Torah and you understand some of the images of the menorah, you'll get that too. They kind of go like this, doop, doop, and Sabbath would have been right in the middle. Sabbath is what bridges this and this. Yeah, so Sabbath bridges man and community, God and man. Sabbath is that connector, right? It's the thing that brings the two together. And so do you understand the beauty of why they would put Sabbath right there in between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, the poem and the narrative? It bridges it all together. Genesis 1, you'll find, is more centered and connected. And again, this will blow your mind when you get this. Genesis 1 is really all about their God, right? A man plays a part, but it's really all centrally focused on God, on the divine and how the divine orders life. But you'll notice Genesis 2, really the central figures of Genesis 2 are going to be man and the things that God creates. And that's why the stories will continue. Genesis 3, 4, 5, you'll see man become the center. It'll come from man's perspective. Because again, Shabbat is what connects God and man. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, which is really pretty beautiful. So let's step into Genesis chapter 2. Here we go. Now the heavens and the earth were completed in all their host. And God completed on the 7th day his work that he did. And he abstained on the 7th day from all his work that he did. And God blessed the 7th day and hallowed it, for therefore he abstained from all his work that God had created to do. So God created 6 days and then got tired. Right? Maybe God got really sleepy and he needed to take a little bit of a nap. Right? A power nap, maybe. Yeah. So God sleeps all day on the 7th day. Is that the idea here? God just got tired, so he created a day to sleep. Well, I came from a tribe where the Sabbath day was very important, but we didn't actually keep it very well. It was actually kind of a blessing, a curse for many of us kids. That was the day where our parents would take naps. For many of us, we'd kind of have to sit around, do nothing. We couldn't watch TV, which was a total bugger because Saturday morning cartoons, that's where it was, right? That's where the good stuff was. Sunday morning cartoons, meh. So we missed it, right? Shabbat was an absolute curse for some of us. We couldn't do anything. And for many of my Jewish friends, it's been turned into a bit of a curse. They will actually call their neighbors over to turn on the oven or turn on the TV, right? To hit the elevator button. It gets crazy. But here's the thing. Again, consider this deeper metaphor. There's something beautiful going on here. God creates space. It's not that this God is tired. This Shabbat concept is actually a really beautiful, applicable one. Whether you keep it on the literal seventh day of the week, Saturday, or you find a way to incorporate this in a daily practice, however you do, there's something really beautiful. There's a gift here. Let me read it again, but I'm going to just highlight seventh day. Now the heavens and the earth were completed in all their host, and God completed on the seventh day his work that he did. I've been toying with this a lot. If I could rewrite this, considering the Hebrew and then adding our own words today that would make the most sense, here's what I would do. Here's how I might write this. Now the heavens and the earth were completed in all their host, and God completed displaying divine beauty and created a bridge between his wonder and man. If I had been told the Sabbath day, right, this Saturday day was a day where God bridged, where God took the two, his divine beauty and man, and he found a way to connect the two. If that day was all about connection to beauty and wonder and community, if I had been told this day was a day of celebration, man, like what a difference that day would be. Yeah, think about that. A day in which you stop and you just enjoy the life that's teeming all around you. Think about your week every week. Some of you go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with absolutely no time to breathe. That's called slavery. That's called being a machine. And Israel is trying to avoid slavery, right? And so no wonder Shabbat, Sabbath, is so important because they've been slaves. What is the one thing that's going to keep them from being slaves? Yeah, it's remembering your story, stopping to see the beauty and the wonder all around you. The Sabbath was central to this. And so what if you had a day every single week, or maybe even took time every day to stop and say, okay, I'm not a machine. I can't keep this pace. It's not realistic. If I do, I fall back into bad habits, poor patterns, right? What if I stop and breathe again? Remember, I am not a human doing, right? I'm a human being. What if you stopped and did that every day, once a week, however it works for you? Because for the Jews, that was the idea there. And then there's this. God blessed the seventh day. He hallowed it. For therefore he abstained from all his work that God created to do. Now, I remember many people use this to say, see, if it's not Saturday, then you're cursing God and you don't have a blessing, blah, blah, blah. I think that is short-sighted, right? I think that's a bit short-sighted. Are you Jewish? Well, if you're Jewish, then you're going to follow certain patterns. But if you're not, let's go deeper then. Let's look at the deeper value of it. Here's how I might rephrase this today with the Hebrew in mind and Jewish culture using our own words today. God hollowed out space and time to celebrate this moment. Yeah, when I think about Shabbat that way, God stopping, hollowing out, digging out space and saying, let's sit together. Right? Like that's beautiful. Let's sit together and breathe again. Let's sit together, you and me and community and friends. Let's sit together. Let's eat our hearts out that day. That sounded weird. Let's eat to our heart's desire, right? Let's drink and eat and be merry and rejoice. Let's get out in nature. Let's do the things we can't do during the week. That's the beauty there of Shabbat. And I can't tell you how important that's been in my life lately, to stop and enjoy the wonders. Stop and look around and say, man, this thing has order and life and it's teeming all around me. And this space, I am purposely carving it out now for my friends, my family, for myself. It's doing so much beautiful things in my life. I can't even say enough. It's beautiful. It reminds me of this. My kids and I, my daughter Ashlyn and my son Kason, we went on a camping trip, and it was actually the three of us and a bunch of youth. But my wife had plans that weekend and couldn't make it, and so the kids and I were camping there at this place in Southern California, and there on the beach are just thousands of these really big but flat rocks, just all over the place. And so, as a kid and as an adult who kind of is a kid, I began to see all over these little cairns. They're called cairns. And it's basically stacking these rocks on top of each other. And so, the day is a Saturday, which again was perfect. And we're kind of playing together. And we've made this day so special. We were swimming, laughing, eating tons of food. It was so good. And we're enjoying this time together. And we see these cairns, and my daughter asks, "Daddy, what is that? Like, what's that little statue?" And I said, "Oh, whenever hikers see a cairn, what they do is that basically is telling them you're still on the trail. This is the right trail. It's actually a signal signifying this will take you where you want to go. If you start noticing those are gone, you're probably on the wrong trail. So this cairn, these stacks of stones, are there to remind hikers you're heading toward life. You're heading toward the goal. It's good." Yeah, already seen it? And so what my kids and I did, we thought, let's make a bunch. And so we took time together and we started building these cairns. And it took hours and hours and hours, but we were having so much fun. And again, we had to get a picture of ourselves there. And so we sat down, and as we're sitting down enjoying the cairns, my daughter said, "Do you think some kid's going to come by and destroy it?" She's always thinking about that justice, right? And I said, "You know what? I don't know. But we have a picture of it, and we can look at this picture anytime we want." And she said, "Yeah, you're right. And also, Dad, there's probably always rocks around us wherever we go. We could build one too, couldn't we?" And it started to hit me as I'm writing this talk the other day. I thought, that's the beauty of what the divine does here in the story. Builds this beautiful symbol, this beautiful structure, right? This pattern, and says to the people, wherever you go, take it with you. Wherever you go, take it with you. Stop. Be reminded we're on this journey. And on this journey, sometimes we need to stop. We need to reevaluate. We need to breathe again. Remind ourselves we're not machines. And everywhere we go, let's build these carve out these places, these stations, these moments, these cairns. Let's build them and remind ourselves, again, there is more to life than just doing. Sometimes we need to stop and we need to celebrate. Sometimes we need to stop and enjoy the wonder together with the divine and community. And that is Shabbat. That is Shabbat, and it's such a beautiful way to transition into chapter 2. And so, as always, what do we do with this? Right? If we don't do something with this, if we don't apply it, then it's just kind of a story, right? So I want to leave you with some challenges today, because this to me is so life-giving. So, number 1, ask yourself this question right from the get-go. Right now, do you feel overwhelmed on a weekly basis? Are you just like dragging, finding yourself, it's difficult to breathe, right? Are you there? What are those things right now that are overwhelming you? Why don't you just take a minute, think about that. Even write it down. Take a pad of paper, write it down on a pad of paper. Some of those things right now. Number 2, I want to ask you this. Can you carve out time during your week or weekend to celebrate the wonders and blessings all around you? Is it possible? If it's not possible, we have a problem, right? Our schedules are way too packed if you can't find time to carve out for family and the divine and community. So when is it possible for you to do this? Ask yourself that question. Answer it there on that pad. Usually for most of it, it's the weekend, right? For me, Saturdays is continue to be that time. And Sundays when I go back to mowing my lawn, doing those things, most of the time it's on Saturday, right? Number 3, Take one day. Try Saturday. Try it. For many of you, you'll go to church on Sunday, but that oftentimes is busy and chaotic. Why not also spend a day? Why not make it Saturday where you choose to relax, be present to family and friends and yourself? To have a day where you grill that day. Make that your grill day. You invite family and friends and you enjoy community, right? That will become the most special day of your week. And then lastly, write down in a journal how it felt to carve out that time and enjoy those blessings all around you. What did it do for you? Did the week start better because you did it? Like, ask those questions. What did it do for you and your family and your community? Folks, I love this day. And I love the Jewish perspective on why it's important to carve out that time. It's so beautiful and life-giving. Everyone, I just want to thank you so much again for allowing me to take you through some of the beauty of these verses. Again, we've only done a couple today, right? 3 or 4 verses. But there's so much goodness there and so applicable for today. And so because it takes a lot of time and energy to do all of this, we want to ask again that you please consider donating to ethos-church.org/donate. This is tax-deductible donations. We all have to give somewhere, right? You have to give some kind of tax donation throughout the year. Why not let it be here? Where again, this is information that can be so helpful for you, your family, your friends. Donate here. We think it's worth it. And again, consider giving these messages out to everyone you can. We think, again, the Shabbat, again, is such an important part of life. It should be. And as always, Ethos Living Rooms is something we do twice a month. And if you enjoy these conversations, we actually interact together. I don't preach. I don't get there and tell you what to think or whatever. I ask a lot of questions and I get a lot of interesting dialogue going. And that's kind of where I really thrive during those two weeks a month. Consider joining us on Zoom. All you have to do is email me and I'll send you that link, or sign up for our email every week, our newsletter, and you'll get that with the little link below. We'd love to see you there. And as always, too, please consider hitting that little button there. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell. You'll know every time we're live. Everyone, I love you. Thank you so much for joining us here at Ethos Online. We think, again, the Bible has so much beauty, and we'd love to continue sharing it with you. Everyone, take care. Love you. See you next week. Bye.